I had recently been thinking about a time that I was up in, I was in Massillon, Ohio, and I was at a high school, and school was shut down that day. It was a day in May, and I asked why, and the coach said because we had I think it was our 5th or 6th suicide in the last year.
I think it's been therapeutic for us to go through this process, therapeutic for Ryan to go through this process, and I think it's a good process for our kids to go to as well.
1 in 5 kids is diagnosed with a mental health condition, and only 50% of those kids are getting treatment. Having Ryan come out and tell his personal story gives so much more authenticity and heart to all of this. On Our Sleeves is a movement that we have created to really help us break the stigma around pediatric mental health, mental illness. It's really built on 3 legs. We're reaching out with advocacy efforts, we're reaching out with fundraising efforts, and education efforts.
In June, you announced your partnership with Nationwide Children's Hospital, and you stood up at a press conference and spoke publicly for the first time about your father's suicide.
Growing up, I didn't quite understand what all went down, and then as I get older, I start to realize that it was a sickness, and that there's people out there that need help.
What was that like, Ryan?
Well, it was something that was probably a long time coming. When you step into the spotlight of being the head coach at Ohio State, you feel that exposure on a daily basis, and I'm not ashamed of it. I know my family's not ashamed of it.
I think it was a courageous thing for him to do. I don't think it was as easy as it came off to be, but I think he, at the end, wanted to do it. I think he felt good about doing it, and I think he's at the point where in his life that he knows he has a platform.
Ryan, can you walk me through from when you were 9 years old, when your father committed suicide, to coming to that realization, the gamut of emotions that you ran through before you gained this perspective that it was a sickness that your father's dealing with?
Yeah, when you're young, it's hard, and you have to grow up fast when you're 9 years old, and you feel anger, you feel sadness, you feel animosity, you feel a lot of different things. But then again, as you get older and you start to see that this is something that's not unique to you, is that it's gone on everywhere. It's gone all over the country, and now we're seeing it happen more and more at the younger age, and so for adolescents and teenagers, and so just something that really gives you a lot of thought, and why is that going on?
What I've learned through this whole process with On Our Sleeves and really trying to get out there and get in front of this pediatric mental illness crisis that our country is in, I've heard a lot of stories. And when Ryan shared that his dad had suffered from a mental illness, it was just one more conversation that I had that, kind of solidified the need for bringing this to the forefront in conversation.
Nina, your son RJ is 11, and before you went public with this, Ryan had to have a conversation with him about his grandfather, who he'd never met. What was that conversation like for Ryan and for RJ?
I'm an emotional person, so I cry over everything, and Ryan was like, let me take this.
I think when you're a father, you kind of are worried about having those conversations. It's because you feel like if you bring it up, it's uncomfortable, and but I think that it's very healthy.
We're going to be married 15 years, and it's something that as the years got on, I wanted to be more vocal about it and have an open relationship with our children, and just stress the importance of sharing emotions and telling the kids that it's okay not to feel okay, and to talk about it.
What do you think it says about Ryan that who he admittedly is not a big emoter, like he's not a sit around talking about feelings person, has been vulnerable and revealed this about himself?
Mm-hmm. I think that you can't talk to your team or tell a group of young men what they should be doing if you're not willing to do it yourself. I think the whole world of college football is kind of changing. I think the kids these days are different. They don't really respond well, to that fear. I just hear Ryan say a lot that, what wouldn't you do for someone that you love?
Love until you have passion. Oh yeah. I said you have love until you have passion. Yeah.
Ryan, last week, one of your linemen, B.B. Landers, came out and talked about his own struggles with mental health. What did that mean to you?
Well, I think it shows now that there's an environment that we're creating that it's okay to talk about it. Because once you talk about something, usually you feel better about it anyways. And trying to hide it and suppress it isn't going to help anybody. And I've even seen just, since he's come out and said that, I've seen, a hop in his step, and I think he feels good about that. And the thing that's amazing is he's got a team and a family that want to support him.
Ryan, since you made this announcement in June, how has it helped you with coaching your players and connecting with them?
I think they feel like they can come up to me at any time with any kind of question, something that's on their mind. I think they feel like I'm approachable. In recruiting, we tell them we're going to take care of their kid. We tell them we're going to take care of them and develop them academically, after football, and all these areas, but also mentally and emotionally. And so if we're going to say that in recruiting, we have to back it up.
The Day family's committed $100,000 to this, and their fund's going to go to help families and to support research and education. Research is the biggest component of all of this. There's a couple people that might hold a spot, have a little bit more clout than the head football coach at Ohio State, but his voice will be heard.
You don't have a lot of memories from your father growing up. Do you feel like this is a way to honor his legacy, what you and your family are doing?
Yeah, I do. I never really thought about that when I was younger, about doing it this way, but I do. I think that this is a way, to turn a negative into a positive. And I think sometimes the more vulnerable you get, the more people are willing to come to you and ask for help.
Is the hope someday, Nina, that physical health, which is often discussed, mental health is discussed in the same plane?
I have 3 children, and I just know there's a lot of parents that are afraid to talk about whether their son is have anxiety or they're depressed. They feel ashamed. They feel like their child is weak. They feel like bad parents. These same parents have no problem calling and saying, my kid has the flu or has an ear infection. So we kind of have to treat it the same,
5-10 years from now, as this program builds and gets momentum and word spreads, what do you hope to accomplish?
Well, I hope we win a lot of games. That's part of the job at Ohio State. You got to win. That's number one when you wake up in the morning. But you want to have a bigger impact than that when you're done. You want to leave a legacy behind. You want to make change, and I think that's part of life. And along the way, if we can build this thing up and win a bunch of games, hope to be here for the next 10 to 20 years.